Hello and welcome to Paul Knows Photo. So in this edition we're going to basically have a bit of an overview on Canon lenses in regards to what you get for your money in terms of quality and what's my personal opinion and advice on those lenses. So let's start off with this cheap Canon lens, which is a Canon EF 75 to 300mm f4.0 to 5.6 Mark III lens. Basically it's a budget lens, so you're not going to get great sharpness from it. It's very similar in performance to the 100 to 300 lens, and obviously it's okay, but it's not great, and personally I wouldn't use it to do any sort of professional work. The main reason for that is sharpness, because the sharpness will not be there. You really want an L lens for that. But we're looking at telephoto lenses, anything from 300 to 500 basically. So the next lens we're going to look at now, I put this in the mix because that other lens I just showed you is full frame. Now this is an EFS lens, so it's for crop sensor cameras with a 1.6 crop. I put this in the mix because it's considered quite a reasonably good sharp lens. Obviously not on par with the L lenses, but it is very light and compact, and when you work out the crop factor, it works out at about 160mm to 400mm. So it is quite a decent lens. It's quite cheap at £140, opposed to the other lens which is about £136. But if you've got a crop sensor camera, you might be better off with sharpness in mind with this 55 to 250mm EFS lens. Moving on, obviously the Canon L 300mm f4L IS lens is a stellar performer. It's sharp. You can put a 1.4 teleconverter on that, giving you 420mm on full frame, with f5.6 aperture once you put the teleconverter on there from f4. It's a lens I had for a while, and it's fantastic quality. Without the teleconverter, I think it's one of the sharpest lenses out there, and if you want to do any sort of work that you want to sell, I would highly recommend this lens for that purpose. Generally, if you're going to be selling any work, you really want L lenses. Right, here is the 400mm 5.6 L lens, very popular with birders. There's no image stabilization with this particular lens, that's the only downside to it. But if you keep your shutter speeds above 500mm, 50th of a second, sorry, you should be okay with this lens. But because it's got no IS, that is a slight disadvantage. So the sort of price you'd be looking for on this particular lens will be around £1,100. You can pick this off eBay, possibly off a third-party seller on Amazon, for around £500 to £600. Same sort of amount for the 300 f4 as well. Moving on, here we have the Canon 100 to 400 Mark II lens. Obviously you can buy the previous version for about probably at least £800 cheaper, but I've noticed this lens to be steadily increasing in price. Now as you can see, it's listed on Amazon there at £1,875. Now it was £1,600 a month ago, and before that it was around £1,500. So I'm seeing this lens steadily increase in price. I'm not sure why. At the moment Canon are offering a £200 cashback deal. It sort of seems to me that Amazon is taking advantage of that and bumping the price up. I don't think it's a good move on their part, because you can buy a grey import version of this lens for between £12 and £1,400. So keep that in mind. In terms of sharpness, this is probably one of the best lenses out there. It's very sharp. I'd say it's probably just as good as the 400 prime. Obviously it's got zoom on there, it's got image stabilization, it's pretty sharp. I just found it to be a bit slow on my 7D. That's the only drawback I could find with it. I think if you've got one of the 1D bodies, the speed of it will be fine. However, if you've got a budget camera, you might find the autofocus a little bit lacking in speed. And for those of you who've got a lot of money to spend, here's the Canon EF 500mm f4L IS lens. It's on there at £1,200. I'm not sure why, because that's a lot of money. I believe the Mark II is going for around that sort of money. You can pick up a brand new one of the Mark I version of that lens, probably for around £6,000. However, if you shop around and look and will consider buying it second hand, you could probably pick that lens up for about £3,500, maybe £4,000. I've seen them advertised for about £4,500 on eBay on a buy it now price. But if you're willing to do a bit of bidding, you might be able to pick one up for around £3,000 or £3,500. And these are the main Canon lenses I would recommend if you're wanting to get into telephoto. There are other alternatives, such as the 200 to 500 with the built-in teleconverter, but I believe the price of that is around £8,000. There's obviously the 2.8 300, very sharp lens, but again quite expensive. And obviously there's the 400 2.8 as well. But there's lots of options out there for you. But if money is a limiting factor for you, I believe these lenses that I have showed you should give you an idea on what to expect to pay if you're looking to get into any sort of photography that requires a telephoto lens. And thank you for watching.